Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Davis, and I am at Dartmouth College and delighted to be with you today. This is my first opportunity to do a webinar, so I'm hoping that the systems work and you all can see the things that you need to. If you can't, please do send me a little note through the question box, and I can respond or do whatever needed. I do want to just say that we have a note from the College Week coordinators of this that if you, and the note is that our software in Adobe Flash have developed a bug on some systems. So if you're having trouble hearing our presentation, click hide video and show video to refresh. All right. So again, if you having trouble hearing what I'm saying, just click hide video and show video to refresh, and hopefully you're all there. So I'm here to talk today about a couple of programs that we run here at Dartmouth College. I've been here for a long time. I was an undergraduate 25 years ago and am now directing a couple of different programs, half of it for the Tucker Foundation, which is a service and spirituality side of campus organization and I coordinate programs within the service side, including one that I'll talk to you about, which is number one on the screen in front of you, the Summer Enrichment at Dartmouth program. And then I also work for the Dean of the College office and direct a program that's for first-generation college students, trying to ensure that they can thrive here and have a wonderfully successful experience. So I'm going to start with Summer Enrichment at Dartmouth and then come to 5-step at the end and then come back around to questions. So please, if you have questions during this, feel free to chime in with them. I would love to have as much of a dialogue as is possible with me talking to my computer. I'll start right in, and the programs are similar in the populations that we're trying to serve, but they're quite different in terms of the focus and the age, and to put it at its most sort of basic level, the first program I'm going to talk about, the SEED program, is about college access, and then the first year student enrichment program, or 5-step, is really about college success once students have been accepted. So that will be kind of the order that I do it. So for the SEED program, and we'll start in sort of on that one, I'll open with a picture of our whole group last summer, and I think one of the first things you see from that group of people here on campus is that there are folks there who are from a wide variety of backgrounds, right? I mean, certainly there's different colors in that picture, there's different ages in that picture, there's a 66-year-old man in the back, there are high school kids in it, there are folks from really a lot of different places that are coming together in this one program. And what we're trying to do with the program really, I think, rests on the fact that we do have people from such exceptionally different backgrounds and then have an opportunity to really work across those differences. And that's kind of how it works and how it has become successful. We're in our 13th year now. So I think what I'll get right to, sort of off the bat is what we're about in terms of our mission and who our partner communities are. As you can see, the mission itself really has two basic components in terms of who we're trying to target. There's the promising high school students. As you can see, Summer Enrichment at Dartmouth empowers promising high school students from under-resourced backgrounds to thrive in high school and college, and provides Dartmouth students transformative opportunities for service and for leadership. And so there's two main audiences there, right? There's the audience which is the high school students themselves, and they come from those 5 towns and cities that you see there, from the South Bronx, from the Bronx Center for Science and Math, from Boston, Massachusetts, from East Boston High School, from Raymond, New Hampshire, and it's one small public school there, from Fairmont, West Virginia, which is right in the heart of Appalachia, and then from Schenectady, New York, a very large suburban urban high school with about 3,000 students. So our smallest school, Raymond, has about 450 students, 99% white students. Our Boston's and Bronx schools are almost 100% African American, Latino, and Asian. And then Schenectady is just a very, very wide range diversity, as is Fairmont. So very intentionally, we have brought together students that are from different geographic backgrounds. They're from different urban versus rural backgrounds, right? We have very, very rural New Hampshire and very, very urban, in the middle of the South Bronx, one of the densest populations in our country. But they have some real similarities as well. One, They come in as 14-year-olds, so there's a similarity of adolescence and all of the things that come along with the identity development and all of that. But they also all qualify for free or reduced lunch, so there's an income piece that's the same. And that one word we have, they're promising. They're students that we feel are students that have a potential in them that hasn't yet been realized. And I think that's where our program is different than some other wonderful programs that are out there that are programs, let's say, like Prep for Prep, which is working with students who are high achieving students of color from low income backgrounds who are at public schools throughout New York City. And it takes those students and places them in private schools, either in the city or elsewhere, that can meet the needs of those individuals. And that's programs doing some great work. We're quite different than that. We partner with schools and actually keep the kids in the schools and work with them there. And then two, we're also working with students that aren't high achieving yet during their freshman year, students that we feel have more potential in them than has been realized so far. And so we are in essence a catalyst for sparks that we will find a guidance counselor or a teacher in the building. Somebody will say, this kid has a spark. And so we're then trying to take that spark and to fan it. We work with a small group of people, right? I mean, we work with 32 students at a time. They come for 4 summers in a row. So there's a belief that we're not hitting hundreds and hundreds of students in terms of who we bring here. Where our multiplying factor is one in the number of Dartmouth students that we involve, which I'll talk more about. And also that we partner with our high schools. And so we have these 5 high schools that serve around 5,000 students that we're trying to help ultimately affect the college-going culture in that building. And I think that's something that has really evolved with our program and is something we can now, I can't say that we've changed all of our schools, but I think that we have had an impact, and I'll explain a couple of ways how we've done that. So that's what the program is trying to do at its most sort of foundational level. And then what we're also doing with the program at sort of its base is academics, right? We are an academic program. We're in the summer term at Dartmouth. Hanover, New Hampshire is a nice place to be in July, but that's not our focus. We're not a camp. We're an academic program that has extracurricular pieces that I'll talk about, but really our focus is academics. And you can see, I mean, even from the pictures there, there's the girl on the far right from East Boston who is working on poetry in the humanities class. We've got the girl on the left who's from the Bronx, who's working with a computer programmed robot that she has helped design at the Thayer School of Engineering on campus. The people in the middle, who are from a variety of schools, are dissecting a pilot shark on the beach, literally, off the coast of New Hampshire at the Isle of Shoals Research Facility, which is run by Cornell and by UNH partnering, and it's an undergraduate marine research facility. So we spend an overnight there. So I have those photos to hopefully give you a sense of the kind of range that we're trying to show with our program, with the academics that we do. So as you can see, the Seed 1 focus is on language arts and identity, and also on robotics and engineering, and how to use problem-solving skills, develop problem-solving skills. I mean, a lot of what many of you will be familiar with from the work of Angela Duckworth and a whole range of others about resilience and grit and determination, and how can we be trying to encourage all of those through our academics and our extracurriculars as well. The language arts identity focus in our humanities class really it's about identity, and it's about, to boil it right down, sort of the differences in how students, the difference between how they may see themselves and how others see them because of their age, their gender, their race, the neighborhood they live in, the kind of school they go to, their accent, the language spoken at home. All of these ways that people make assumptions about us, we're trying to give them an opportunity to articulate their own identities and how they're beginning to form that identity. And that's, I think, a really powerful piece of Seed 1 for our students. Seed 2, which is their second summer, so they'll be rising juniors the second summer. The focus is really on the environment, both the typical way you think of environment, right, of environmental science and our natural environment and our effect on it, its effect on us. We have a range of students there, right, in terms of the connection to the natural world. The natural world is differently experienced in the middle of the South Bronx versus in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I mean, there's a very different sense of presence of nature. but nature is in both places, and obviously the environment of our East Boston High School is incredibly important for the health of the kids, et cetera. So we look at that side, but we're also looking at the environment sort of through more of a humanities lens, in the sense of the environment as one example, the people we choose to spend our time with, the decisions we make about what we do after school and where we go, and who is our environment, and the way we affect those folks, the way they affect us. And some of our students, of course, are making great decisions with that. Others aren't and need to be making different decisions, and we're trying to help them to think of the environment in a more holistic way. C3, when they're rising seniors, as you would imagine, focuses on the college selection application process. SAT prep to continue from C2. There's an application class where they're learning the ins and outs of the Common App. They fill out the Common App. They meet with Dartmouth admissions officers every day to talk about what goes into the whole application process. A side note is that we're not a feeder for Dartmouth College. We have 1 or 2 students a year who end up coming here, which I'm delighted about. Selfishly, I'm excited because I get to see them. But most don't. Most go to a whole range of other things. Some are very high standard, academically selected schools, Harvard, Stanford. Others are schools from big public university backgrounds. And others are community college. And we have 2 this year who I'm quite sure will go to the Army. And so, our students vary in terms of the trajectory that they take and how conventionally successful those trajectories are or not. We're trying to find the right match for kids, and we're trying to give students the chance to have choices, right, which we all like or bemoan if we don't have them. And I think for adolescents particularly, choices and the opportunity to have them is a good leverage point. And then Seed 4, which we'll be having our students come for this summer, is the transition to college. So they will have accepted to college. They will be heading there in a month, and we're trying to help them prepare for college and prepare for that transition in a month into the reality of college and what it's about. And for us, that's a hugely important time for us to have no filters, right? To be pulling off any of the need to be protecting our students from some of the realities of college life, like binge drinking and sexual assault and hazing, things that happen at Dartmouth College and that happen at most colleges that I'm aware of. We want to make sure they're aware of those things, as well as the incredible opportunities. They got to be coming into college with no blinders on, fully aware, ready to come. Many of them will be the first in their family to go, so they're not necessarily having it in the groundwater at home what college is about, and we're trying to help with that. So that's the arc of the program. How it actually works for when they come is we bring students their Seed 1 summer, when they've just finished their freshman year in high school. They come for 4 years, and during their 4th year, we bring in a new group of Seed 1 students, either from the same schools or from different, depending. So, going on to our next slide. We do stuff besides classes, though, too, and I think that range of photos gives you a sense. See, we took them to a Red Sox game last year during Seed 3 as part of our trip to Boston, and a chance to, I guess maybe you can see behind me with the camera back over there. You can see Boston Red Sox in the top part of the bulletin board. So there is a personal reason that we took them. But there's also a chance for them just to get to a big game, to see a game, to have that excitement. And then during the day, we were taking them to colleges around Boston. We were doing site visits, doing all sorts of things. But we want them to have fun, and we also want them to have a chance to have all these enrichment activities outside of classes. The opportunity to really be expanding their conception of what they can do, of what's possible in their life. So the high ropes course where you see those students, they're suspended 30 feet above the ground right there. You can see in that picture there's varying levels of comfort from Anthony and Dre, who are cool with that, to Dina Boo and Jose, who are holding on for dear life. They're safe, but they're also risk-taking, and that's something I'll come back to at the end. That is part of what we're trying to do, is a safe environment to be taking risks. I also highlighted the dorm life, as you see there, and I think that's an enormous important part of what we do. They have a different roommate for 4 summers. They are, by the end of our time with us, they've had 10 weeks of living in a college dorm. Now, they're not college students, but they're in the college dorm, actually, that I was a freshman in when I went to school here long ago. So there's a reality there. They're trying to figure out how to work with roommates, how to deal with different cleanliness standards, with different sleep habits, with all of the things that I had no experience with when I went to college. I also, that lower right-hand one, I'll mention our staff member's name. It's Elliot Dial, wonderful man. He, some of the young women that he is with right there have been sexually assaulted before they even came to our program, um, when they were 14 years old and younger. To have them as comfortable as they are with Elliot, to have the physical proximity, to be trusting a man, is significant. And I think part of how, and you can see in the other picture, just the proximity of folks, there's a culture of love and of safety that we work exceptionally hard to try to establish with our staff and our volunteers. And the students ultimately buy into it. And I think that's one of the quote unquote soft parts of the program. It's not part of our learning objectives necessarily, but it's a hugely important part. And our students will talk about having the opportunity to be their best selves, right? To be the best person that they are capable of being, because it's just a safer place. And some of our students are in schools where they, particularly for the boys, they don't feel comfortable walking home with a backpack, right? That there are things that are associated for them because of the cultural backgrounds they have, because of the neighborhood they live in, that if they are bringing a book home, they're in essence selling out. And that's, how do you work with that? I mean, you don't just tell your kids generically, do your homework. Well, if they can't get their work home, homework is a bit of a misnomer. So how do you work within that, and how do you help them to find ways to, because the work's got to get done. It's not like we're making no excuses for kids, but you've got to work with the reality of the situations. And so our dorm life and our activities are a big piece of what we're doing with that. Another enormously important part of it, of course, is the people that we surround them with. And our staff and volunteers are the backbone of the program. You can see in the picture there that just the difference in ages of the students, of the people involved. Evelyn Ellis, who's the very fast-looking runner below the woman, she is one of our summer advisors, and she's the director of institutional diversity on campus. She's the affirmative action officer. She has very important leadership positions on campus, and she volunteers one-on-one with our students because she sees it as an opportunity to have her own life be better, and also to make a difference, in this case, in John Daney's life, our student from the Bronx, who's now at Fordham University, at Syracuse. And then we rely on the number of people you can see there. 15 residential staff members who are either Dartmouth undergrads or recent alumni who come back. Edie, who's lying on the ground there with Trayvon, she is one of our staff members who's now teaching in Boston. 5 lead teachers who help to direct the curriculum, who help to make the classes happen, who work with student teachers, but who are the ones who are ultimately responsible for it. We'll have 110 Dartmouth sophomores will be involved this summer. 150 of them applied, which is about a sixth, 15% of the entire class. So we get a lot of buy-in and involvement from our students. Sophomores have to be on campus for their summer term at Dartmouth. It's one of the idiosyncrasies of our plan, the plan it's called. And so that gives me an eminently exploitable workforce, right, volunteers, and so we really tap into that. And then, as I mentioned, the 55 Dartmouth faculty and staff who will volunteer this summer, ranging from Evelyn Ellis, the institutional diversity person, to the associate provost, to English professor, to track coach. A very intentionally broad mix of people is what we're trying to hit. And then we have more than 200 other volunteers on campus, mainly students, who will do things like host meals, who will help participate in panels about being student athletes, etc. I can't emphasize enough how important the people are that we surround our students with, as you can imagine. I also can't emphasize enough how important ongoing contact is, and on this penultimate slide about SEED, you can see that there are various ways that we work with the students when they're not with us. The core of that is our undergraduate internship. Dartmouth students have 1 term free during their junior or sophomore years because of their sophomore summer. They, in essence, can be off for 9 weeks and can go do any number of internships, work, whatever. We take some of those, like Jenny below and the five students on that sled, are all Dartmouth students who we send to our schools to do 9, 10-week internships, and they work full-time in the school. They work with our SEED students. They also work with the school in general to try to help the college-going culture. We bring our students back for either a fall or winter reunion weekend, bring them back to campus, have them reconnect here, try to reinfuse some of the energy. And then, of course, just our staff and volunteers who maintain contact with our students. And we have a director of ongoing contact during the year whose job, 10 hours a week, he's a student, is to be maintaining contact with students and their interns and to make sure we're meeting needs. Please, by the way, if you have any questions that are coming up to you as I'm jabbering away here, do write them into the box there that is for questions, and it will show up on my screen, and I'd be delighted to answer them at the end. Or during the middle even. And then our last slide on seed shows my background as an English teacher. It's more symbolism of just this Linda who went on to University of Pennsylvania, wonderful young woman, now is almost 30, which is a bit amazing. She's on the ropes course, on the low ropes course, and is just trying to get up over that wall. And the reason I like that picture and what she's attempting to do is that there's all of this support underneath. There's students and staff and volunteers. There's my hand coming down from the top of the wall. She is very much supported and safe. And she also, though, needs to take a huge risk herself and try to get up over this wall. I'm not towing her up. People below aren't pushing her up. We're trying to create a space where she can take a risk and risk failure, but in a way that's safe. And I think that's probably as good a description as we can do of what the program's trying to do for our kids. And the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, I just think, does connect to what we're doing. So that's the SEED program. I think, the one question that had been posted about it that I'm happy to talk about right now is the question is, how do you select your students in schools, which is, a very good question. The quick version is that there are literally hundreds of schools we could work with, and we're working with 5 at a time. So we don't market, we don't recruit. It's basically word of mouth, and every now and then we'll do some outreach, like with Appalachia. We wanted to work with a school in Appalachia. We had some funding that would help to fund an Appalachian school, and so we did some research through Dartmouth Alumni Network and came up with an appropriate school. What kind of school is appropriate? It has to have a large enough population of free and reduced lunch students that it's no stigma to have that. Our Bronx school has, I think it's 97% of its students qualify. In our rural schools, an interesting side note, it's sometimes hard to know the number because there is more of a stigma involved with being free or reduced lunch, and so some people just won't file the paperwork for it. But generally speaking, 30 to 40% of the population has to have that income level, and that ensures just a broad enough base that we can really get a good diverse group of applicants. And then I go to the schools to interview. They have to complete written applications. They, of course, have to qualify financially, but they get a recommendation from a teacher or a guidance counselor. And then I work hard when I'm at the schools, and I bring an assistant with me as well, to try to cull out, the way we describe it is, the kids that desperately need us and can also take advantage of what we have to offer. And that's treading a pretty narrow gap. But I don't want students, 2 blocks down the street from me is Hanover High School, and it is an exceptionally good school, nationally ranked. Something like 75% of its students are going on to 4-year colleges immediately. It is a very, very good school environment. I have no interest in working with them. They've got a lot of students who would take great advantage of our program, but don't need it. There are other schools that desperately need us and don't have an administrative structure that can work with us. That there's not somebody in the building who's willing to have buy-in to say, I'm going to help host these interns, we're going to make this a good situation for them, and that doesn't work either. So we're trying to find both schools and students that need us and that can take advantage of what we have to offer as well. So that's the SEED program, and if there are other questions later, I'm happy to answer them. The other program is called the FICEP program, which is First Year Student Enrichment Program, and it is a program which we started 3 years ago at Dartmouth. So this is similar population, right? The Venn diagram, and if I were very organized, I'd have one to show you. I apologize, I don't. But the Venn diagram, the students in both of our programs are, generally speaking, low-income students. Many of them are students of color. Almost all of them in both are first-generation students. Everybody in our Dartmouth program is first-gen. The main difference is that the SEED program, we're working with high school students, most of whom will not go to Dartmouth. With FICEP, we're working with students who are, by definition, Dartmouth students. They've been accepted. They haven't matriculated yet, and I'll explain sort of how we work with them. But it was designed to help an incredibly important population to us at Dartmouth, and to a lot of people all over the country, and anybody who's watching this, I know, shares that belief, that commitment, that these are students who are incredibly promising students who already have a huge array of skills and who are the first in their family to attend college, and so have a variety of challenges that they may face because it wasn't in the groundwater at home. They also have a variety of unique strengths because they are from that background that we want them to know and want them to be able to take advantage of and to bring to the community. So I will give just 3 slides about this program. They're fairly dense ones, but give a sort of a sense of how it works. And there are a few phases. Our mission statement, as you can read, is to empower first-gen students at Dartmouth to thrive academically and in the greater college community. Both of those are exceptionally important, right? And a question that might get asked later, that's a classic one, is, how are you measuring your outcomes? How do you know that you're succeeding? The quick one everybody wants to see is GPA, which the quick version is we are making a substantial difference. But ultimately, that's not as important to me as the ability of our students to be taking advantage of other things at the college, to not be having disciplinary action, to be able to take advantage of off-campus programs, to be leadership volunteers in different organizations. There are a lot of ways that you're successful at a college campus that aren't measured by GPA or by numbers, and we're trying to help with that with the greater college community as well. You can see our specific learning objectives: to thrive in college-level classes, to use campus resources to support themselves when they do become students a week later, to make the most of the unique network of support that Five-Step offers, right? We are a group, and they'll be part of other affinity organizations as well, the African American Student Society. Some will be part of the gay, lesbian, transgender, etc. organization. Some will be members of the Native American House. And then, of course, they'll be members of athletic programs and choral performances and all sorts of things. But this is a unique way that they can be supported as first-gen students by other people who are also first-gen, and by upperclassmen who are first-gen, and we'll talk about the mentoring piece. And then to better understand their own inner strengths, their affinities, and their areas for growth, which we as adults could use more of, right? It's the more reflective we are, the more we know where the gaps are between what we want to be able to do and what we are actually doing. The more we know about ourselves, the better able we are to move, to address the needs. So that's the overall picture of what we do. And then the sort of the details of when a student arrives, what happens with them. You can see in this slide that this is orientation week, which is incredibly important. And a side note, Elijah, who is the young man in glasses sitting in the classroom setting there next to Stephen, he's a Native American student from Oregon, and in an hour I'll be meeting him and his family, who have flown in their first time in an airplane, have flown here to be part of the Native American powwow weekend that's happening. And so I'm going to have tea with them and have a chance to in this case, to congratulate them on what an incredible young man they have raised. These students, they come for this week ahead of time, and there's authentic classes with actual professors, faculty members from a variety of departments that I'll show you. We also work with our college resource staff and academic skills center, student accessibility services, different affinity advisors, and we work with them on personal growth. The workshops that are scaffolded to help them give a better understanding of where they are most resilient, where aren't they, where are the things that they need to be working on with work ethic, with all of these pieces. During the academic year, we try to continue our relationship with them. We have paired relationships with upper class student mentors. That is a hugely important part of what we do. And I think the chance for our first year students to have upper class students, most of whom are first gen themselves, but not all. We've got one who is a 4th generation college Dartmouth student herself. 3 generations before her have come here. She's a wonderful mentor as well. So I make no assumptions about somebody's qualifications to do this. But we do look for people that are sensitive to the range of issues that a first-gen student might face. We have social events, Inside Scoop, ice cream socials, where they get a chance to talk to upperclassmen about what really does happen in college, and then what actually is happening in college once they become college students, to debrief their experiences. 2 of my favorite prompts that I like to use, that I'd encourage you to use with students, high school, college, middle school, whomever you work with. One question is, how are you known by the widest variety of people in your school? So, somebody's a good lacrosse player, somebody is a class clown, somebody is goth, somebody is the kid who always wears different hair color. Whatever it is that people who don't know you would know about you, right? The kid who doesn't come to school. Whatever it is, how are you known? And then the more important follow-up question, how do you wish you were known and you're not? Not the stuff that you want to hide, the stuff that you want to keep from people, which is, of course, healthy in many cases, not all, but the stuff that you wish people knew that they don't. And to have a chance to talk about that and to share that with a larger group, there's a lot of personal growth that's important that I think can happen there. And so our ongoing workshops give us a chance to work with them on the personal growth to help them come to understand a bit more about the way that they fit into this campus, the way that they want to change the campus to fit them better, the idea of Dartmouth as an evolving institution, even though it is very tradition bound, that there are opportunities to change the place, to make the Dartmouth their Dartmouth. And then enrichment activities from, skiway. We had 20 students that we took up to learn to ski this year, to cooking classes, canoeing, all of those sorts of things. You can imagine, and some of you probably have even a greater variety in the programs that you run. But the ongoing during the year is a really important part of what we're doing. And I think I just can't stress enough that this mixture of time ahead of time and then time throughout the year to be keeping contact with them is really important. I find it frankly just satisfying. It gives me a chance to renew as well. And then the last slide that I'll show you overall is the collaboration with faculty and staff. And even just that one 5-word phrase. If some of you are in higher ed, you're familiar, I'm guessing, with the fact that there's very rarely enough interaction between faculty and staff. And I taught in the education department for 10 years before doing this. So I've seen both sides of the house. And there's not enough taking advantage of the resources that are inherent in both of these ways of interacting, in a classroom or outside of the classroom. And the idea of Dartmouth by day, Dartmouth by night, how are adults helping students' experiences of those? So you can see the range of departments: government, economics, English, et cetera, et cetera. These are actual faculty members who teach classes that are simulations of classes they will teach, but with time built around, before, after, a chance to process what it was like to sit in a chemistry lecture in college, the rapidity of it, the incredible, the drinking from a fire hose. But what are skills? What are specific tips to do that, to take advantage of it? We have overlap with their faculty advisors, get involved with the program in pre-orientation, and then are their advisors throughout the year. A chance for departments to communicate with each other. I mean, even just within those that I list there, I point to them. You can't see me pointing. But the government, economics, English, there's not necessarily a lot of communication among them either, aside from their chairs meeting, once every 2 months. That's an important opportunity, I think, to have folks just get a chance to be sharing practice and connecting with the content that they do, but also just pedagogy, ways that they teach. We've had a chemistry professor who's incredibly just on top of things and progressive in the use of technology and the use of smart boards, but also using podcasts of himself lecturing that then can be used by students outside of class. All of these things that are, of course, very much part of discussion about higher ed right now. Some of our staff members and faculty members are more familiar with this than others. Here's a chance to be learning and sort of professional development that can happen almost organically within the chance to interact. And then you can see the range of administrators we involve, everything from our advising deans, undergraduate deans, to the writing center, to computing services, to all these folks that we try to get involved. It's really a wide-ranging introduction to our campus resources, and then, of course, our enhanced communication among programs. So like with SEED, I like to think, and we have some data to support this, that we're making a big difference in the lives of the students we work with, but we're also giving other people an opportunity to have their lives enriched, and in some cases transformed, by working with these students as well. And so there is a lot of bi-directional, multi-directional enrichment, certainly enrichment for me. I am a much different person, not just professional, because of my work with these programs and these populations. But that's sort of the two programs in a nutshell, and I think I'll just conclude the presentation piece by just saying that Dartmouth's got a long way to go with a lot of things to do with working with underrepresented populations. I think a lot of schools do. I've learned that some of the best learning I can do is from two-year community colleges that are working with students who are entirely first generation. So I make no assumptions about the amount of resources a place has, or the reputation it has, or the average SAT score that it has, in terms of its ability to be working with students across socioeconomic barriers. And there are not as many students from low-income backgrounds as I wish there were at Dartmouth. We're working actively to try to affect that. And then with SEED, we're trying to work actively to affect the number of students from our program who go to college, but also in their high schools and our partner schools, the ones that then go on. So I will, come to a close with the presentation piece here, and I would be happy to answer questions if people have them. Again, I would direct you to the question box. I see one more question there, so I will certainly answer that one. But do feel free to chime in and let me know if you have questions or to follow up with me later. My email, I'm guessing you'll get that information about me anyways, but my email is jay.davis at Dartmouth, dartmouth.edu. And my office phone number is 603 646 9918. But the question that I have here that's a good one is what challenges, in essence, what challenges have I found trying to bring the 5-step program into the Dartmouth community? I will say first that I've had an unbelievable support. It wasn't my idea to begin with, which is actually quite lovely. It was faculty and administrators in the Dean of the College office saying, we need to be meeting the needs of these students. We're recruiting them well now. We're getting them here. We're supporting them with financial aid, which is a big deal, critical deal. But we're not necessarily supporting them while they are here well enough. And so I then was asked if I would come in to direct. And I think from that point, the challenges that I've seen have been, one, faculty buy-in, sort of across the institution. We've had incredible support from chaired, endowed chairs of different departments on campus who have stepped up incredibly. And there's others that just don't necessarily see a problem, and there's some who see it as, you made it into Dartmouth, you got to be independent in terms of your academic support, and I'm not going to change how I'm teaching to pander to students that may not have the background that they should have. That obviously isn't the approach that our program is taking, but we try to reach out to work with faculty that may have those opinions. It's also much easier to work with our students when they are not students yet, right? Which by that I mean when they're during the pre-orientation program, they haven't matriculated yet, they're not in other classes, they are a captive audience, and we have to take incredible advantage of that time. The 8 days that we have is just treasure because they're not pulled off in all these directions yet. Once they become students, a day later and matriculate, they are they're on a different track already. And so we probably have 50% of our students that regularly attend our events. And then we have another number that will come to something during the term, but I can't force it. At this point, we're not tying much money to it. We have some bit of academic support for books that we can tie to them attending events. But they need to make their own decisions, and the whole horse and water. We can try to make the horse as thirsty as possible, I guess, so we can try to make sure people know why they can take advantage of us, but we can't force them to drink. So I guess that's what I would say that the more regular challenges are that we face. Are there any other questions from folks? I'm delighted that you came and spent your time with us. I'm looking at the participant list and seeing there's a lot of folks here, and I'm really delighted by that. Thank you for your interest. I wish that I could talk with each of you to learn what you have to share with me as well, and the perspectives that I know you could bring and help with my practice. So I do encourage you, please, to reach out, j.dartmouth@dartmouth.edu, j.davis@dartmouth.edu, and 603-646-9918. Thanks for your interest, and I'm thinking you all are NPEA members, is my suspicion. I just can't speak highly enough for the organization. It's helped me in my work enormously, and encourage colleagues to do so as well, become members. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you have a great weekend wherever you are. And I'm going to end the presentation. Take care.